reporting. Copy. Move on.
In an age of super shooters where speed is the name of the game and the name Rainbow Six is associated with hero shooters and rolling in the fucking grave, I want to take you back to a simpler time in first-person shooters where slow, methodical, and tactical trumped running in like a crack fiend on Christmas Day. The spiritual successor to SWAT 4, and even pulling back to the original Rainbow Six trilogy, Ready or Not by Void Interactive takes the concept of SWAT 4 and brings it to an HD setting with an emphasis on slow, methodical movement and the gripping realism of being an officer of the law first and foremost. You play as one of the many SWAT officers whose job it is to bring order to the chaos within the city of Los Sueños. Whether that be barricaded suspects, bomb disposal, hostage rescue, your job is to subdue the suspects and regain control. The developers advertise this game as a realistic tactical shooter that punishes the player for being careless and rushing head first. And though the game is still in alpha status, and oh boy, there are bugs aplenty, and a fortunate lack of content at the moment. However, with monthly updates and an open developer commentary that allows changes to be made that best suit the community surrounding them, there is definitive promise surrounding the game. However, with each major patch that comes out, more and more is being added to the game with maps, weapons, fixes to AI, and hopefully in the future, a story to be told within the city of Los Sueños itself. For now, let's dive in what makes this game so appealing and why many are praising it as a return to the classics.
Arms outstretched! Get down and put your hands up! The gun's down. I can see them!
Given that this isn't a Warzone style shooter where you can just rush in and regenerate your health on a whim, it lends more to Escape from Tarkov, but rather than a wide open arena, each area is self-contained and relies on RNG to spice up the maps. In single player, you take control of an AI squad of 4 other officers where you can customize your gear and weapons to fit your style and approach a situation in a variety of ways. Run in with 416s and light up any target, equip beanbag shotguns and pepperball guns for non-lethals, equip heavy armor for better damage absorption, or lighter for more magazines and items, though only playing with the AI does have a disadvantage you won't experience in multiplayer. Having a team full of 5 human players with complementing loadouts and voice coordination is some of the most fun you'll have within this game, especially in the more difficult maps like the nightclub and the party house where the AI is more I than A.
Flash?
Okay, here we go.
Yep, clear left.
Right.
No, I got one here on the left. Got one here on the left. Dude, I'm never, ever going to tell them to drop anything ever again.
Overall, it controls like your typical shooter with leaning, aiming down sights lest you hit jack and shit, leaning left and right to help clear rooms in a more efficient manner. You can also check your ammo by pulling out the magazine, as well as checking the amount of rounds remaining, along with how many spare magazines you have about you. You can also check how many are in the tube, along with your remaining shells for your shotguns. You also have multiple avenues when approaching a door, sweeping underneath with an opto wand to get an idea on the other side, a door wedge if you want to close off a flanking route, C2 charges to disable enemies on the other side, a battering ram, or a breaching shotgun that can also act as a weapon in a pinch. Given that this is a tactical police simulator, your main goal is to bonk the enemy with a headshot and call it a day. Each map has set objectives depending on the game mode and map played on. For a specific example, Dollhouse is an 18th birthday gone down the shitter with hostiles on the premises. Though there's clearly more than just a basic rescue happening. It would seem the house was already being targeted for a police raid and the 911 call just happened to speed up the process. Aside from securing the scene, you'll be collecting a laptop and hard drives along with arresting the head of the household. The pristine house above is just a facade, a basement below revealing his utter obsession with I can't say it, YouTube, so fuck off. Then again, it varies in map and your type of mode, of which there are 5. Barricaded suspect, raid, active shooter, bomb threat, and hostage rescue. Again, most of these are very similar with a handful of different objectives you need to obtain that perfect score.
He's down. He's down.
Ready or not asks that question of, are you ready or not? You can kill anyone with a well-placed shot, but so can they. Bullets are deadly to anyone and everyone, and you have to keep in mind of what's behind you lest you pepper a door with a civvy behind it, or fail to recognize a threat or not and kill a civilian. Not only that, but just because you shoot a suspect doesn't mean they stay down, or even if you command them down. They might get back up and shoot you with a spare handgun they had on them, meaning it is in your best interest to zip tie anyone and everyone you come across. Though it also seems many of the AI opponents have aimbot cranked up to 11 at times.
Get down and show me your hand!
Police, hands in the air!
Unless you get a quick drop on them, more than likely you'll get tagged by a bullet. There was a moment where one suspect took 3 of us down in short order because he was acting like John Wick all of a sudden. Now look, I understand there has to be some challenge, but there is a difference between a trained soldier turned terrorist and a junkie who happened to get woken up in the middle of the night blasting a Glock. Though when things go smooth as butter, it's a feeling a beer after a long night of work can only compare to.
1, 2.
Shield, go.
Yet, part of the challenge is also the random generation of it all. The maps may be the same, but the enemy placement always changes, and until you clear a building, it may be considered a more dangerous threat than your in-laws at Thanksgiving. Some doors are also booby-trapped with explosives that can fuck up plans because you didn't pay attention.
Okay, so I'm gonna flashbang by the pool. That's my last flashbang.
Wait till we get closer. This isn't Counter-Strike.
Part of the beauty of the game overall is the visual and sounds. Even though it is in alpha stages and still plenty of work that needs to be done, the atmosphere, the sound design, the environment, the weapon animations, the developers of the game perfected the overall design of the weapons and gear, even down to the arrest animations. My biggest problem with firearms in video games is they don't feel like firearms, more like Nerf or nothing. Firing your weapon is exactly how it would sound, loud and powerful with echoes depending on the environment. Slotting in new magazines, tossing flashbangs, even the sound of cicadas in late evening air. I feel more bloody immersed in this brief scenario than I would most any other game. And by God, the suppressors, not silencers like everyone imagines them. They do as they do in real life. They suppress shots, not silence them. And even though the report of the weapon is masked, you can't really silence a bolt carrier group being caked with carbon as you unload half a mag into a suspect. One of my chief complaints, however, is the lack of directional sound. Now, don't mistake there not being any. You can hear a gunfight behind you, or in front of you, or even people talking on the other side of a door. However, I know that if someone is sprinting up the stairs, I won't know he's there until there's a ship on my back. Crack House is an old and rickety place where you can hear them above you, and it gives you an idea of where they are and how many there are. It's just, when they do start sprinting your way, it's hard to notice them before it's too late.
Just coming down.
Roger that, entry team. Tag him and keep moving.
The mainstay complaint regarding the game itself is the alpha status and that there are bugs galore. That and the AI is, like I said before, John Wick on fucking steroids. If you don't catch them, they'll catch you. There are also major clipping issues regarding ragdolls, as zip tying them will cause them to be possessed by the devil. Now, I know the dev team is working their asses off on making the best possible product that they can, and it's definitely rough around the edges. One of the biggest things is the game doesn't truly incentivize you to tell suspects to get down, or they'll pop you the moment that you do. You have to stun them or shoot them with non-lethals to comply, and it isn't really possible when that suspect is wearing body armor. There is a raid on the hotel where a bunch of veterans are holding a few people hostage, and they're carrying AR platforms. It doesn't make much sense for you to go in and tell them no. Even the Crack House, which has some of the easier enemies, has the issue of them riding and dying and telling you to suck rocks before they even dare surrender, forcing you to put them down instead of arresting them, which is part of your purpose as a SWAT officer. Now look, I know it isn't always possible to do, especially in a heated situation. I only wish it would be a tad bit easier. However, I can only hope that some of the sound issues in the AI itself is tweaked. I know it won't be perfect, but at least Void Interactive is putting out more effort in their products than the development team on the Saints Row reboot.
Talk to entry team. Roger, trailers inbound.
He's gonna get shot.
After putting over a day of playtime into the game with the limited amount of maps, I had one hell of a time with the game and the series itself. Recently, the devs are working on a Coyote update, which looks to be a mostly underground map based on the cartel smuggling routes. They also have a handful of test maps that aren't even detailed but are being prepped for future maps that I can only hope will live up to the hype. If Void somehow finds this video, I'd like to see a casino map or a bank robbery hostage rescue. Spice it up a tad with variety is all. Thank you all so very much for watching. I still have a few more reviews to knock out here in the future along with some new playthroughs, because I need to grind out that content. Thank you all to the new subscribers and the support. Keep at it, lads.
Yeah, that was kind of wild.
Great job.